Question 1. Given the circumstances of a multi-site Citrix deployment, Mr. Patel notices intermittent user session drops when users connect through NetScaler Gateway during peak hours. From the perspective of infrastructure components, what should Mr. Patel prioritize to diagnose and resolve the issue? A. Check the load balancing configuration and SSL offloading settings on the NetScaler Gateway to ensure efficient session management. B. Verify the delivery controller's database replication status to ensure consistent policy application. C. Examine the virtual delivery agent VDA versions for compatibility issues with the hypervisor. D. Review storefront server certificate validity and ensure its bindings are correctly configured. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. The NetScaler Gateway manages secure remote connections and is responsible for load balancing and session handling during peak times. Intermittent session drops often stem from misconfigured load balancing or SSL offloading issues which directly impact session persistence and security negotiation, while database replication affect policy consistency is less likely to cause session drops at the gateway. EDA versions C affect user session stability but not gateway connectivity directly. Storefront certificate issues D may block initial connections but wouldn't cause intermittent drops during active sessions. Properly diagnosing NetScaler Gateway's load balancing and SSL setup is critical for stable remote access. Question 2. In the context of optimizing resource usage in a XenDesktop environment, Garcia is tasked with reducing storage footprint while maintaining fast provisioning of virtual desktops. Which approach best aligns with this requirement? A. Use machine creation services MCS to provision desktops from a single master image with differencing disks. B. Deploy provisioning services PVS to stream a single disk image to multiple virtual machines. C. Clone full virtual machines for each desktop to guarantee isolation and performance. D. Assign persistent desktops to users to allow personalized configurations. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. Assigning persistent desktops. D. Gives each user a dedicated VM, improving personalization but increasing storage needs, so it's not aligned with reducing footprint. MCSA uses differencing disks to reduce storage but can impact performance. PVS B streams a single disk image, minimizing storage and improving speed, making it the best choice for reducing footprint while ensuring fast provisioning. Cloning full VMS. C increases storage and deployment time, so it is least efficient. Thus, PVS is preferred for resource optimization in this scenario. Question 3. When considering policy enforcement in Citrix Studio, Mr. Thompson notices that a newly created policy does not apply to users connected through storefront. What is the most plausible cause from the perspective of policy application? A. The policy is linked to a delivery group that does not include the affected user's machines. B. The storefront server is not configured with the latest SSL certificate. C. The user accounts are not assigned proper roles within Active Directory. D. The Citrix Director Monitoring Console has outdated data preventing policy refresh. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Policies in Citrix Studio are applied based on the scope defined. Typically delivery groups or organizational units, if users are connected via storefront but the policy is linked to delivery group excluding their machines, the policy won't apply. Storefront SSL issues impact connection security, not policy enforcement. Active Directory roles C affect permissions but not directly policy application within Citrix. Citrix Director D is for monitoring and does not control policy enforcement, hence correct scope linkage is crucial. Question 4. Considering the evidence from session management logs is new and wants to shadow a user session that is currently disconnected but still active on a virtual desktop, what should she do to enable this functionality? A. Enable session shadowing for disconnected sessions in the Citrix policies and ensure administrator permissions. B. Force log off the disconnected session before shadowing can occur. C. Restart the delivery controller service to refresh session state. D. Use Citrix Director to reset the user's profile and then reconnect. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Restarting the delivery controller C. Can refresh session states, but it's disruptive and not the standard approach. Shadowing requires the session to be active. Disconnected sessions can be shadowed only if policies allow it. A. And proper admin rights exist. Forcing log off. B. Ends the session, preventing shadowing. Resetting the profile. D. Affects user settings, not session state. Therefore, configuring policies to allow disconnected sessions and having correct permissions is the best practice. Question 5. Under the assumption that user logon times have increased significantly, Mr. Lee wants to identify the most probable cause related to profile management in Citrix. Which factors should he analyze first? A. Large and unoptimized user profiles causing slow loading times during logon. B. The delivery controller's failure to communicate with the storefront server. C. Insufficient licensing causing session throttling. D. Hypervisor CPU commitment reducing VM responsiveness. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. User profile size and optimization may directly affect logon performance. Large profiles or inefficient folder redirection cause delays. Delivery controller communication issues. B. Impact session brokering but less so logon time. Licensing shortages. C. Limit connections but not logons, but CPU with a commitment on hypervisors. D. Affects VM performance broadly but not specifically logon time. Thus, profile management is the first area to examine for logon delays. Question 6. Taking into account HDX technology, which of the following best explains how Citrix optimizes multimedia content delivery for users on low bandwidth connections? A. HDS uses adaptive compression algorithms to reduce bandwidth usage without degrading user experience. But HDS redirects multimedia streams to the delivery controller to offload processing from the user device. So HEX disables all multimedia content by default to preserve bandwidth. D. HES relies solely on the hypervisor's network optimizations for multimedia delivery. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. HDX multimedia redirection. B. Offloads video and audio decoding to the client device or optimized servers, reducing server load and bandwidth. Adaptive compression is part of HEX, but redirecting streams is more critical for multimedia. HEX does not disable multimedia by default. C. That would harm user experience. Hypervisor network optimization. D. Is important. HES uses protocol-level enhancements beyond the hypervisor. Therefore, redirection is key to multimedia optimization. Question 7. While examining a XenApp environment, Wilson notes that users experience slow application launches despite adequate backend resources. Which of the following best explains a potential cause within the delivery controller's role? A. The delivery controller is overloaded with brokering requests due to insufficient servers or misconfiguration. B. The virtual delivery agent (VDA) is incompatible with the Citrix receiver version on the client device. C. The storefront server is not publishing the correct application versions. D. The SQL database hosting the site configuration is offline. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. If storefront C is publishing outdated or incorrect app versions, users may experience delays due to incompatibilities or additional loading steps. Delivery controller overload affects session brokering but typically causes login delays rather than slow app launch once connected. VDA incompatibility. B. Impacts session stability, not app launch specifically. SQL database offline. D. Causes site-wide failure. Therefore, checking published app versions in storefront is critical. Question 8. From a practical standpoint, Mr. Sanchez is tasked with improving high availability for the SQL server hosting Citrix site data. What approach should he implement to ensure minimal downtime? A. Configure SQL server always on availability groups with synchronous replication. B. Enable machine creation services to clone SQL databases automatically. C. Increase hypervisor CPU and memory allocation to the SQL server EM. D. Use Citrix Studio to replicate site data across delivery controllers. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. SQL Server Always On is the preferred method for high availability but requires complex setup and licensing. Machine creation services. B. Deals with AMS and SQL HAS, increasing via resources. C. Improves performance but not availability. Citrix Studio. D. Manages site configuration replication across delivery controllers. but this does not replace SQL Server methods. The best practice is combining A for SQL high and D for site config replication, but here D addresses Citrix-specific replication, critical for failover. Question 9. According to recent studies on Citrix XenDesktop environments, what is a key distinction between server virtualization and desktop virtualization that affects administration strategies? A. Server virtualization pools resources centrally, while desktop virtualization provides personalized OS instances per user. B. Desktop virtualization eliminates the need for hypervisors, unlike server virtualization. C. Server virtualization requires persistent user profiles, whereas desktop virtualization uses only non-persistent profiles. D. Desktop virtualization uses protocols like ICO, whilst virtualization relies solely on RD. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Server virtualization A consolidates multiple server workloads on shared hardware, optimizing resource use. Desktop virtualization provides individual, often personalized OS instances, requiring different management and provisioning strategies. Desktop virtualization still uses hypervisors. B. Both server and desktop virtualization can use persistent or non-persistent profiles. C. ICO is used for both server XenApp and desktop virtualization. E is not exclusive to server virtualization. D. Understanding these differences is vital for administration. Question 10. In light of recent developments, Robinson wants to troubleshoot printing issues in a XenApp environment. Users report printers are not redirected correctly. What should Robinson verify first to identify the root cause? A. Confirm that the Citrix Universal Print driver is enabled and policies allow client printer redirection. B. Check if the storefront server is accessible at ease. C. Verify that the delivery controller database has sufficient storage space. D. Ensure that the hypervisor supports virtualized printing. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Printing redirection depends heavily on client connectivity. If storefronts have HTTPS accessibility, B fails, users cannot establish proper sessions, affecting printing indirectly. The universal print driver A and policies are essential but secondary to basic connection. Database storage C does not affect printing. Hypervisors D do not manage print redirection directly, hence connectivity. Storefront HTTPS. A fundamental check when troubleshooting printing problems. Question 11. During the process of deploying a new XenDesktop site, Istacata notices that user connections are delayed significantly after authentication. Which action should he take to address the delay based on delivery controller behavior? A. Verify the database connection between the delivery controller and SQL server to ensure it is responsive. B. Update the VDA agent on all virtual desktops to the latest version. C. Disable the storefront server and reconnect to force a configuration refresh. D. Increase the RAM allocation on the hypervisor hosting the VDAS. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. The VDA, Virtual Delivery Agent, manages communication between user devices and virtual desktops. Outdated VDA versions can cause session delays after authentication due to compatibility or policy processing issues. Database responsiveness A affects overall site health but usually causes broader issues, not only connection delays. Disabling storefront C is disruptive and does not. Delivery controller delays. Increasing RAM on hypervisors D improves VM performance but does not directly resolve authentication delay. Question 12. Considering the evidence from a Citrix environment audit, Davis finds that users on different devices experience inconsistent HDX session quality. What is the most effective way to optimize HDX performance across various endpoints? A. Implement adaptive transport to dynamically select the best protocol based on network conditions. B. Configure the delivery controller to disable encryption for HEX sessions. C. Mandate the use of Citrix Receiver version 4.0 for all clients. D. Restrict session bandwidth limits in Citrix policies to a fixed value. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. adaptive transport enable HEX to switch between EIP and ECP depending on network performance, optimizing user experience, disabling encryption. B. Compromises security and is not recommended, mandating a specific Citrix receiver. C. Limits client flexibility and does not guarantee improved HDS quality. Fixed bandwidth limits. D. May throttle sessions unnecessarily. Adaptive transport is the best practice for consistent HDS performance. Question 13. In the context of Citrix profile management, Istisheng wants to minimize profile corruption during logoff while preserving user settings. Which configuration should he prioritize? A. Enable profile streaming and configure profile versioning. B. Disable folder redirection to simplify profiles. C. Set policies to delete profiles after each session. D. Use local profiles instead of roaming profiles. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. Using local profiles, D reduces the risk of corruption since profiles are stored on the VM rather than transferred over the network. Profile streaming with versioning A can help but adds complexity and risk if not managed carefully. Disabling folder redirection B increases profile size and logon times. Deleting profiles after each session C causes loss of user data, hence local profiles stability in user data preservation. Question 14. From a practical standpoint, Morales is tasked with implementing secure remote access for external users without compromising performance. Which Citrix infrastructure component should she prioritize? A. NetScaler gateway for SOPN access and secure user authentication. B. Delivery controller to enforce session policies. C. Storefront server for internal application publishing only. D. Virtual delivery agent to encrypt user sessions. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. NetScaler Gateway provides secure SSL encrypted remote access with multi-factor authentication options, critical for external user connections. Delivery controllers. B. Manage session brokering but are internal components. Storefront. C. Publishes apps but relies on Gateway for secure external access. VDAS. D. Enables session connectivity but NetScaler Gateway handles perimeter security. Thus, Gateway is essential for secure remote access. Question 15. While evaluating performance monitoring data, Mr. O'Neill notices excessive CPU spikes on virtual desktops during user logon. What should he investigate first to address this problem? A. Profile management policies that might cause heavy disk I/O during logon. B. Storefront server connection errors logged during authentication. C. Delivery controller licensing limitations causing session delays. D. Hypervisor memory ballooning events impacting VM performance. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Licensing limitations C can cause session queuing or delays that indirectly cause CPU spikes as processors wait. Profile management A affects disk I/O more the CPU directly. Storefront errors B affect connection establishment but don't cause CPU spikes inside EMS. Memory ballooning D affects RAM but CPU spikes are more related to active processing. Thus licensing should be checked to ensure no session throttling causes load spikes. Question 16. In a modern context of Citrix, which protocol characteristic makes ICA independent computing architecture particularly suited for virtual desktop delivery? A. ICA dynamically adjusts session bandwidth and latency to maintain a responsive user experience. B. ICA uses fixed bandwidth allocation regardless of network conditions. C. ICA only supports RDP-compatible devices. D. ICA requires a direct connection to the hypervisor for session delivery. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. ICA protocol is designed to efficiently deliver virtual desktops by interacting closely with hypervisors and VDAS. It is not dependent on RDP compatibility. C. And does not allocate fixed bandwidth. B. ICA dynamically adjusts bandwidth. A. But the key feature is its ability to communicate directly with the virtual infrastructure to optimize sessions. D. Therefore, ICA's close integration with hypervisors and VDAS makes it ideal. Question 17. Taking into account high availability best practices, Mr. Patel is designing a Citrix environment resilient to a single point of failure at the database layer. What should he implement? A. Deploy a clustered SQL Server solution with synchronous mirroring or always-on availability groups. B. Use a single SQL Server with frequent backups. C. Configure multiple storefront servers for load balancing. D. Use machine creation services (MCS) to clone database servers. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. High availability at the database level requires clustering or synchronous mirroring. A. To ensure failover without data loss. Single servers with backups. B. Risk downtime during recovery. Storefront servers. C. Provide front-end redundancy but do not protect the database. MCS. D. Manages VM provisioning, not databases. Hence, clustered SQL with availability groups is the best approach. Question 18. When faced with an environment that uses both MCS and PVS, Xen wants to optimize the provisioning time while minimizing storage requirements. What combination best supports this goal? A. Use MCS for persistent desktops and PVS for non-persistent desktops. B. Use PVS for all desktops to minimize storage regardless of persistence. C. Use MCS with differencing disks for rapid provisioning and PVS for streaming to reduce storage. D. Use EVS on Leon, a test environment due to complexity. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. MCS supports persistent desktops well, A. Allowing user data retention, while PVS excels at non-persistent desktops with minimal storage use. Using PVS exclusively, B, is possible, but persistent desktops are more complex to manage. Combining MCS and PVS, C, without proper planning complicates management. Dismissing PVS due to complexity, D, ignores its efficiency. Using each technology aligned with desktop type optimizes resources. Question 19. The fundamental question is, ISTACIM needs to ensure that user sessions disconnected due to network interruptions can automatically reconnect without loss of data. Which Citrix policy setting should he configure? A. Enable session reliability and auto-reconnect policies on the delivery controller. B. Disable session roaming to prevent session drops. C. Force log-off on disconnected sessions to free resources. D. Increase maximum session time up to unlimited. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Session reliability and auto-reconnect. A. Allow disconnected sessions to reconnect seamlessly, preserving state. Disabling roaming. B. Reduces flexibility, forcing log-off. C. Terminates sessions, causing data loss, so it is incorrect. Unlimited session timeout. D. May not help if network drops disconnect sessions. Thus, enabling session reliability and auto-reconnect is best practice. Question 20. Under the assumption that a Citrix administrator observes consistent failures in user authentication via storefront, what is the first troubleshooting step he should perform? A. Verify the storefront server's communication with Active Directory domain controllers. B. Restart the virtual delivery agent on user desktops. C. Reinstall Citrix Director monitoring tools. D. Update hypervisor firmware for compatibility. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Authentication issues often stem from Active Directory communication, which should be checked first. Restarting VDAS B is a quick fix for user session issues, but does not directly affect authentication through storefront. Citrix Director C and hypervisor firmware D are unrelated to storefront authentication. Therefore, verifying ad communication is the correct initial step. Question 21. In light of recent developments, Mr. Evans notices users are experiencing slow logoffs from their XenApp sessions. Which Citrix component and configuration is most likely causing this delay? A. Profile management settings causing slow profile cleanup during logoff. B. Storefront misconfiguration causing session persistence issues. C. Delivery controller licensing expiration delaying session termination. D. Hypervisor EPU contention slowing VM shutdown. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. Slow logoffs can be caused by resource constraints at the hypervisor level, such CPU contention. D. Which delays VM shutdown, and session cleanup. Profile management can contribute, but usually affects logon, not logoff speed specifically. Storefront B. Handles brokering, but not session termination timing. Licensing issues C. Generally prevent new sessions rather than delay logoff. Addressing hypervisor resource contention is crucial for smooth logoffs. Question 22. From the perspective of Virtual Delivery Agent (VDA) management, Jackson is preparing to upgrade all VDAS in a large XenDesktop environment with minimal disruption. What is the best practice for this task? A. Perform a staggered upgrade, updating VDAS in batches and monitoring for issues before proceeding. B. Upgrade all VDAS simultaneously to minimize the maintenance window. C. Remove all existing VDAS before installing new ones to avoid version conflicts. D. Upgrade only the delivery controllers and leave VDAS as is. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. A staggered upgrade reduces risk by limiting exposure and allowing issues to be identified and fixed before impacting the entire environment. Upgrading all VDAS simultaneously. B. Risks large-scale outages if problems occur. Removing all VDAS first. C. Causes unnecessary downtime. Upgrading only delivery controllers. D. Leaves VDAS outdated, causing compatibility issues. Best practices monitored upgrades. Question 23. Considering the evidence from network monitoring, one suspects ICA session latency is caused by protocol settings. Which policy adjustment can best reduce perceived latency for users on unreliable networks? A. Enable the use of based adaptive transport in Citrix policies. B. Disable session reliability to force session termination on disconnect. C. Increase encryption levels to secure data transmission. D. Limit bandwidth to a fixed maximum rate for all sessions. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Disabling session reliability. B. Forces sessions to terminate quickly upon network loss, which can reduce perceived latency caused by session hanging, though it impacts session persistence negatively. Based adaptive transport generally improves latency, so disabling it contradicts best practice. Increasing encryption C can add overhead, worsening latency. Fixed bandwidth limits D can restrict performance. While disabling session reliability may reduce latency, it sacrifices session resilience, so it should be used carefully. Question 24. Under the assumption that a Citrix administrator needs to troubleshoot storefront authentication failures, which of the following logs is most useful for identifying root causes? A. Windows event logs on storefront servers under Citrix delivery services. B. SQL Server transaction logs for the Citrix database. C. Hypervisor event logs for virtual machine health. D. Virtual delivery agent logs on user devices. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Hypervisor logs. C. Focus on VM health but are unrelated to storefront authentication. Delivery services event logs on storefront contain detailed information about authentication and session brokering, making them essential for troubleshooting. SQL Server logs. B. Focus on database transactions, not authentication at storefront. VDA logs. D. Relate to session connectivity, not authentication processing by storefront. Thus, storefront's Windows event logs are most useful. Question 25. To what extent does leveraging machine creation services (MCS) impact storage management compared to traditional cloning in a Citrix environment? A. MCS assists differencing disks, reducing storage consumption compared to full clones. B. MCS requires twice the storage because it creates multiple full copies. C. MCS and traditional cloning use the same amount of storage. D. MCS increases network traffic but does not affect storage. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. MCS creates linked clones using differencing disks, which reduce storage compared to full clones. The statement that MCS requires twice the storage, B, is incorrect. Traditional cloning consumes significantly more storage due to full VS copies. MCS optimizes storage, thus answer A is correct, not B. Answer C is false, and D confuses network with storage effects. Hence, MCS reduces storage footprint effectively. Question 26. While examining security practices, Green wants to ensure encrypted communication between users and Citrix virtual desktops. Which component primarily enforces this? A. NetScaler gateway acting as an SOPN endpoint. B. Storefront server's ability to broker session connections. C. Delivery controller managing user licenses. D. Machine creation services provisioning VM images. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. NetScaler Gateway provides secure encrypted SALS connections for remote users, ensuring confidentiality. Storefront B brokers sessions but does not handle encryption directly. Delivery controllers C manage licensing and brokering, not encryption. MCS D manages provisioning unrelated to encryption. Thus, NetScaler Gateway is the key encryption enforcement component. Question 27. Based on the information about session management, Mr. Lopez needs to allow help desk technicians to shadow user sessions without alerting end users. What policy should he configure enable? Is shadowing without user consent in Citrix policies? B. Disable shadowing to protect user privacy. C. Require explicit user consent before any shadowing session. D. Allow shadowing only on disconnected sessions. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation, requiring explicit user consent. C is recommended to respect user privacy and comply with regulations. Enabling shadowing without consent. A. Risks legal and ethical issues. Disabling shadowing. B. Removes troubleshooting capability, allowing shadowing only on disconnected sessions. D. Limits support efficiency. Thus, best practice balances support with user privacy, requiring consent. Question 20. When analyzing the consequences of a license server outage, Baker finds users unable to start new sessions but existing sessions remain active. Which Citrix licensing model does this behavior most likely correspond to? A. Concurrent licensing model. B. User device licensing model. C. Subscription licensing model. D. Named user licensing model. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. In the concurrent licensing model, a user's consume licenses only when active. If the license server is down, new sessions cannot start, but existing sessions continue. User device B and named user D models assign licenses per identity, usually cached locally, allowing new sessions. Subscription licensing C is time-bound, but not common in Citrix. Thus, behavior described matches concurrent licensing. Question 29. Taking into account the role of Citrix Director, Mr. Singh wants to proactively monitor and troubleshoot session failures. Which feature of Director most assists in identifying root causes quickly? A. Real-time session monitoring with detailed error messages in event logs. B. Machine catalog creation and management. C. Licensing report generation. D. Storefront configuration wizard. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation, machine catalog creation. B. And licensing reports. C. Are administrative tasks, not monitoring. Storefront configuration. D. Is unrelated to Director's role. Real-time session monitoring. A. Provides detailed error messages and logs essential for troubleshooting, making it the best feature for rapid root cause identification. Question 30. Upon closer examination, Mr. Morgan notices slow application launches in XenApp caused by policy conflicts. Which troubleshooting step best resolves this? A. Use Citrix Studio to review and prioritize conflicting policies based on scope and precedence. B. Rebuild the delivery controller database. C. Reinstall virtual delivery agents on all XenApp servers. D. Disable Storefront and use direct IP connections. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Policy conflicts typically require review and adjustment, not database rebuilds. Rebuilding the delivery controller database. B. Is drastic and unrelated to policy resolution. Reinstalling VDAS. C. And disabling Storefront. D. Don't resolve policy conflicts. Therefore, using Citrix Studio to review and prioritize policies. A. Is the correct approach.